Welcome to Collingswood Listens. I'm Grace Hopper, your host, and I'm here today with special guest Lindsey Ferguson, who is a 10-year plus resident as well as the Director of Community Development. Hi, Lindsey.
Hi, Grace. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks so much for coming on our show. We're so excited to have you and just dive right into getting to know a little bit more about you.
I'm ready.
I know we met for coffee the other day and you told me a little bit about your life, and I'm so excited to have you on the show so that our listeners could hear more about who you are, because I feel like you're a household name in Collingswood a little bit because you've been here for a minute.
I have.
And being the Director of Community Development, now you have, this position in the community. And I thought that a lot of people probably know your backstory, but that a lot also don't. When you and I sat down over coffee, you had said to me how community has been kind of this consistent common denominator in your life and how it's kind of really saved your life in so many ways. Talk to me more about what that's been for you and what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people can relate. I don't think it's a unique experience to find comfort and solace in a group, but that's definitely been a thread throughout my life. I have a great family. I love them very much. It wasn't
Right.
always smooth sailing,
Sure.
just like everybody experiences.
Mhm.
There were some rocky moments in my childhood, and I think that I always really clung on to the groups I was involved in and the community I found in those groups as some steadiness.
Sure.
And so growing up, I was a ballet dancer and went to a pretty serious children's, professional
Where did
ballet
you
school.
go?
It was called the National Ballet in New Jersey. So by the time I was, 10 or 11, I was going 4 or 5 days a week, spending my whole summer there doing dance
Such a
camps and
rigorous
stuff like
hobby.
that. It was, yeah. And it was challenging, but I really liked it, and it was an honest family. It was a lot of the same
Right.
girls that I had been going with since I was 3 or 4 years old. So just, a very tight-knit group, and a group that my parents were involved in too. My whole family got involved. My
Right.
mom's a graphic designer. She did all our programs. My
Okay.
dad has an acting background. He did a lot of character roles.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a very family oriented thing, but that community really, was good for me. And then I stopped dancing when I was 16 or 17 because I wanted to experience
Sure.
high school,
The world.
the world. And so I jumped right into color guard from there because I found that I needed something to do. And that
Right.
was the closest to dance I could really find at my high school.
Okay.
And one funny thing about Pennsauken High School is that, at least when I was there, I graduated in 2002. Marching band was
A big deal?
it. A
Wow.
third of the school was in the marching
Really?
band or the color guard. It was huge. We won a lot of championships.
Wow.
And so I got heavily involved in that. I did winter guard. We went to world championships. And that was a really tight-knit group. And that
Okay.
really kept me kind of in
Grounded.
line, because like I said, I'm an intelligent person. I always have been, but I did not do great with the structure of school.
Right.
So those groups really helped me in that aspect too, because they
Sure.
kind of kept me in line because you had to do well enough to participate.
Right.
So, that was really good for me. Then I had a stretch after high school where I really struggled for a while.
Yeah.
I experienced addiction issues pretty significantly and definitely lost any sense of community I had. Ended up, if there's one thing addiction will do, it will end you up very alone,
Yeah.
which is what it did for me. And I was extremely lucky to get sober at the age of 24.
Okay.
So I have been without a drink for 15 years now,
Wow.
which is a big part of my life
Congratulations. It's
and,
amazing.
something I'm proud of. And so the recovery community was huge for me throughout my late 20s,
Yeah.
and into my early 30s.
So from
And
the years of 18 to 24, you felt kind of like a lost soul.
very much so.
Okay.
Yeah. I just kind of jumped from job to job, went to community
Yeah,
college
couldn't figure it out. I feel like those are
sometimes.
such hard years anyway.
Yeah, really
because you're
tough.
not an adult. You're a young adult trying to navigate your way in the world, coming out of being a child, just not knowing your place.
Yeah,
That was by far the most challenging time in my life. Between 16
absolutely.
and 23, just a complete nomad, lost
Yeah.
soul.
Yes. Not knowing what I wanted to do, not knowing what I could do.
Yeah.
Not knowing if I could ever do anything.
Right.
Just being so uncertain of myself, my abilities, of
Yeah.
what I had to
Give the world.
offer the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So looking back, I don't regret that time at all
No,
because
it
it
teaches
definitely
you.
made me who I am
Sure.
today. And, going through the process of getting sober also made me who I am today. And,
Right.
that those years in the recovery community um, really also taught me the value of giving back. Like that
Okay.
was where I first felt that spark in my heart. Like not to
Right.
sound corny, but
No,
it's
it's
true.
yeah.
Um, because the recovery community is very service based. And so I got involved in a lot of service commitments because I didn't know what else to do because I was 24 and I didn't
Sure.
drink.
Yeah.
And that's not normal,
Yeah. It
and
filled your
so
joy
it's more
tank.
normal now, but then like it was very tough to find people to hang out
Oh,
with, to find
yeah.
things to do. So, I got really plugged into that, got really plugged into service and started to realize like, oh, this feels really good.
Yeah.
This really is like
S
filling up my cup.
yeah,
So
sparks joy.
so that really was the beginning, I
So did
think,
you
of my
work the
service.
12-step program?
I did.
So
Yeah.
do you feel like that gave you coping skills to kind of like to provide a foundation for years to come? Like the 12-step program,
Yeah.
like are you still referring back to a lot of that
I
foundation?
do. Yeah. I don't think it's something that's for everyone.
Right.
But for me personally, like, without hyperbole, like it saved my life.
Yeah.
It really helped me. I'm a big believer in the tenet of the 12-step programs that say take what you need and leave the rest.
Sure.
Every part of those kinds of programs are not for everybody. There are parts of it that I have left,
Yeah.
and parts of it that I still refer
Yeah. Well,
to this day.
right. I think like you said though, as you're getting sober at such a young age, just to find fellowship with other
Yes.
people who
That
are
was the
also living a sober life.
yeah.
Because I imagine it's impossible to be sober at 24.
Yeah. And so there was a very strong young person's community around here at that time,
Okay.
in the recovery community. And they just scooped me up and I had new friends and I had things to do and I had ways to give back. And that really did sustain me for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I still see a lot of those people today and
Yeah.
I'm friendly and
Are you mentoring people in that program now, or you've
not
taken a
in
step back?
that respect because I don't actively attend meetings. And
Okay.
so, there's certain things that are expected if you're going to do something like
And then
that.
when you got sober, is this around the same time that you moved to Collingswood, or you're in Cherry Hill at this point?
So I got sober and then I met someone who ended up being my fiance and we moved in Cherry Hill. We moved to Cherry Hill together. And then when
Okay.
we broke up was when we ended that relationship
Okay.
and then I moved to Collingswood.
Okay.
So yeah, and I was,
And
still
you
deep in it when I
had
moved
a
here.
lot of different roles when you moved to Collingswood. You worked at a lot of different
I
local
did.
businesses. Tell me about that
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. I feel like when I moved to Collingswood was really like when my life kind of
Started to come
started in a
together.
lot of ways, my
Yeah.
adult life. So yeah, it opened up so many opportunities for me. The first thing I did when I moved to Collingswood was volunteered at the farmers market.
Okay.
So I was the first veggie valet ever at the Collingswood Farmers
What is a
Market.
veggie valet?
So they help man a table where if people because the Collingswood Farmers Market is so wonderful and so
Yeah.
bountiful, you can just get more than you can carry sometimes.
Yep.
So people would come and drop their stuff off at our table and then they could continue shopping and then we would hold all their stuff for them and then we would get it out of their car for them when they were done. So it
Okay.
enabled people to spend more,
Shop.
get more, shop more because we could help
Shop until you
them,
drop.
shop until you drop at the Collingswood Farmers Market. So
Nice.
yeah, I did
So you
that.
probably met a ton of people.
I
Like,
met a
that's
ton
how
of
this town is.
people. I got close with David Hodges, who was the longtime director of the Collingswood Farmers Market. Actually, just stepped down last year, was his last year as director. And got into like the local food world through him.
Okay.
Helped him run another farmers market in another town for a little while, but he really taught me a lot about like the local food economy and just the local small business economy in general. So
Neat.
he was a great mentor. Um, and then, from that interest in the local food economy, I was like managing a cafe at the time, like a very corporate style cafe,
Okay.
and
Where?
at Barnes& and Noble in Cherry Hill. Yeah,
Okay.
so
So
8
different
years of
from
cafe managing,
corporate cafe
very
management.
different, yeah, and a good friend at the time convinced me to quit my job and go work at the Farm and Fisherman in Cherry Hill,
Oh, it's
which was just
great. That's a
opening, which is
favorite
a
of mine.
phenomenal place run by phenomenal
Yep.
people, and so that was my first foray really into, like, the actual food industry, like, not corporate Starbucks food industry,
Gosh,
but,
best
like,
advice a friend could give, leave your
thank you,
corporate
Mara
coffee
Rosado,
shop.
shout out, we'll get back to her. Yeah. Yeah, so I, like, jumped ship and went to work at this restaurant that was not even open yet, and it was a great move on my part. I learned so much from those people in a very short amount of time. I made great friends and connections. I learned, how things really work in a kitchen.
Right.
It was a steep learning curve for me, but it was a challenge at first because kitchens and food industry work is not as easy as people think it is.
Oh,
It's
no.
very complicated. It's very hard work. It takes a very strong work ethic to succeed in that industry, and I learned that there, and I met my future business partners there, Mara Rosado, who I had just mentioned, who I've known for a long time since I was like 18.
Okay. How is she a friend? Where'd you meet?
We met just because she lived in Pennsauken, so we
Okay.
graduated the same year. We went to different high schools, but had mutual friends and
Okay.
got close not until after we graduated, actually. But so she was the friend who said, "Come work here. I know these people." And then we were working together and met our other future business partner, Valentina Fortuna, who was there as a pastry chef assistant.
Okay.
And so we met there, and from that meeting over time, and with the support of Farm and Fisherman, really, we were able to start Constellation Collective, which was a bakery and cafe that originated out of the factory in Collingswood, the
Okay.
kitchen space there, which we converted into a more semi-commercial kitchen space. And that was successful enough that we were able to open a brick and mortar location on Haddon Avenue, which was successful as
And it
well.
was
And
pies.
it was a lot. It was really like a scratch-made bakery cafe.
Okay.
So think like, your home style type things, scones, muffins, Valentina's biscuits are
So
things of
early
legend,
mornings,
pies,
I
early
imagine.
mornings, bacon all day, everything from scratch.
Wow.
And I did some of the cooking, but, Mara and Valentina were really the stars in the kitchen, I gotta say, and I did a lot of the business
So you were
side
front of the
stuff. I
house.
learned a lot from them, and, like, my kitchen game was upped exponentially, but, you gotta give credit where credit's due, and
Yeah.
those girls can cook.
Well, it takes a team effort
Yes,
though.
yeah, and it was all of us, but that was such a learning experience and such a, like, great time in my life to look
Okay.
back on,
That's
just
awesome.
being young and
Figuring it out.
saying, "We're gonna do this. We're gonna
Yep.
open these doors. We're gonna have a business,"
Yeah.
and, having your work every day, getting up out of your house, which was on Spring Avenue at the time, walking 25 feet to the back door of your business,
Yeah.
and hanging out with your best
It's pretty
friends and, like,
cool.
making food for a living
Yeah.
was highly recommend.
Probably could be a
If you can
sitcom.
swing it, to try that entrepreneurial thing once in your life, highly recommend
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
awesome.
awesome, and it's how I met, like, most of the people I know.
Right.
My family makes fun of me when we walk around
Oh
Collingswood
gosh.
because I know a lot of people, to put it mildly, but it's all from business. It's all from
Yeah.
running businesses,
Yep.
I had my boys
Yep.
after, when we had been open for about 2 years. I have twins, so I had them in 2017 and stepped away from the business because turns out it's tough to
Yeah.
raise
Be a
baby twins
mom. Yeah.
and own a business too.
Yeah.
So, I stepped away from that at the time and they continued to have success and, continue today to work together successfully with Constellation Collective. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah.
And I jumped back into the small business fold with Revolution Coffee Roasters,
Okay.
where I was their wholesale manager and did branding and social media for them. And from there, branched out to help other small businesses in the area with social media,
Okay.
help like Eat, Play, Learn, a speech
Uh-huh.
therapy business was one of them. And then from there, went to Head and Culinary, where I built their catering department from the ground up
Okay.
and also did all of their branding and marketing
Right.
from the time they opened until this past September for both locations.
And that's where we met many
And
moons
that's where we
ago.
met. Yes. Yeah. And that was a huge opportunity too.
Okay.
That was also, those guys, even though I had already run a business, this was on a
Larger
larger
scale.
scale, and being there from day one and helping them every step of the way and the autonomy they gave me to learn,
Right.
and the trust they gave me to build that business with them was like, I couldn't have gotten that education anywhere
Right.
else. So shout out to Joe and James from Head and
Yeah.
Culinary because they are true teachers. We're really lucky to have them in town.
Yeah.
Besides the fact that they've built, a wonderful business for our community. They really are teaching, like, a whole group of people, how to work in a kitchen, and,
Yeah,
they're teaching kids how to navigate that industry, and employing high school students from the community,
it's
and
great.
just, they really put their money where their mouth is,
Yeah,
and they're
and
great guys.
I think we all know, like, the best lessons in life are learned in the field, not the
Yep.
classroom, so it's so important to have people like that in the community that are
Yeah.
doing that type of work.
Yeah, I feel really lucky to have gotten where I am without a college degree, frankly.
Yeah,
I have been able to take what these mentors along the way have taught me and really turn it into a career. And,
right.
I don't think that that's the average story, but it's
Huh,
my story. And I think it's getting more and more
it's yeah.
normal.
I mean, I also find, like, it's a very entrepreneurial mindset to not
Yes.
follow a trajectory that is traditional.
Yeah. I don't think I could have learned what I learned if
Right,
I had gone and sat in a classroom.
right. Well, you probably would have learned some, but it may have even taken you back,
Yeah.
4 years that you could have been learning in the field.
Yeah. Haddon
If
Avenue was my college.
right. College of the Hard
Yep,
Knocks.
yep.
I know that you recently just planned an awesome event, which was the Snowball Gala, and
Yes.
I actually wasn't there, and I saw and printed the photos in the magazine, and I thought, "I'll be damned if I ever miss this event
Yes.
again," because it looked epic.
It was fun. It was
Tell me
very
about how you
fun.
turned that around a little bit because that was your first year putting together an event like that, but has that event been going on?
It has. Yeah, that event has existed in different iterations through the years. The Collingswood Gala has always served to help fundraise for the Collingswood Foundation for the Arts,
Okay.
which is a nonprofit that's associated with the Scottish Rite Theatre and Collingswood Grand Ballroom, and helps provide educational programs for students, for residents, theater programs, things like that. So I think it's a very worthy cause. We have a real gem in our borough in the Scottish Rite Theatre
Right.
and the Collingswood Ballroom. And if you have not gotten a chance to really go over there and explore, I would highly recommend it. It is so beautiful.
It's
It's a
stunning.
wonderful venue. The sound's amazing. And they're doing a lot of great work over there to make it a 12-month venue, which is really exciting. So, yes. So existed for a while. It was initially like a pretty black tie gala, your typical kind of fundraising gala.
Do you know how many years it's been running?
It's been more than 10 years. It didn't happen every year,
Okay.
but it's definitely been probably around 15 years total. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
close. And then around 2008, when the recession hit, it kind of shifted to a more like beef and beer type fundraiser
Okay.
because, you have to be,
Sure, modest,
yeah, modest
conservative.
in certain times, when people can't give as much. And then from there, it morphed into the pop up gala, and it existed a number of years in that format, which was the kind of play on the Dîner Blanc that they do in Philly, the white party.
Okay.
So that's when you would see it happen in a secret location, and everybody would have to bring their own things, and you would
So
find out that
fun, but
day
so
where you
much
were
work.
going. So much fun, so much work. But, with COVID, that kind of petered out. They brought it back with the outdoor Gatsby Gala, which was in 2019,
Okay.
and then tabled for another couple years again because pandemic. And so this was the first year that we really wanted to bring it back with a bang. It was
Right.
the first time people were really getting together again, and it was time.
What was the head count on that event?
404.
Wow. I bet it'll, like, probably
Yeah.
be almost double
The
next
venue
year.
maxes out around there. So we're
So it
gonna
was
have
sold
to
out
figure it
event.
was a sold
Right.
out event, yes. Which I was super excited about. It was
So get your tickets early next
get your
year.
tickets early next year, get that early bird
How can
pricing next
people just hop onto the
year.
borough's website? You'll be publicizing
Borough's
it?
website, Borough's social media
All right.
posts, your
Hit me up. Hit me up
crier.
right
I'll hit
before
you up,
that
Grace. We're
drops.
gonna talk about it beforehand because we have talked about ways that we can partner in the
Totally.
future.
Yeah, we'll be there.
But yeah, the gala, it was the first time I'd ever planned anything that big. And honestly, I was new in the role and I didn't have a lot of time to
Yeah.
do it. So with the, crunch that I had, I'm really, really proud of
Yeah.
how it turned out. We got great feedback. We raised almost $10,000 for the Collingswood Foundation for the
It's
Arts, which is
amazing.
amazing. Um, everybody had a great time, and I think it was an awesome
Yeah,
return,
I love that.
and I can't wait till
Let me
next
ask
year.
you a question. Are you somewhat young for this role? Like, historically?
I don't think so. My predecessor, the longtime predecessor, actually was Cass Duffy, who's now the borough administrator,
Okay.
and she started, like, right out of college and
Got
did it
it.
for a long time.
Okay.
I am happy to bring, a somewhat
Youthful
youthful
energy.
energy to it. I'm staring down 40, so I don't know how youthful I am, but I think it's all
Oh,
in your mind,
Pshaw,
and I
40's the new
feel pretty youthful.
25.
So definitely excited to bring that
Yeah,
energy to the role. I do think that there's been a lot of change in Collingswood over the last couple years
right.
through the pandemic. We've seen, obviously, housing become a huge thing because we
Mhm.
have had so many people move to Collingswood in the past couple years.
Right.
Had a lot of young people move to Collingswood, a lot of young families. So I think it's an exciting time to be here.
Absolutely.
And
So tell me about what's new on the horizon now that Lindsey Ferguson is the director of community development. I know you can't
well,
divulge everything, but the things you can speak on.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot, honestly, that I feel like it's my job to continue because I think a lot of the programming we have in town is already so incredible. We
Mhm.
have our big things like the Mayfair, like the Arts and Crafts Festival, our book festival, Clover Market, Second Saturdays, all the amazing things that our businesses do. It's a no-brainer to kind of keep those things going, keep
Right.
the wheels turning, maybe update some events a little bit, but for the most part,
Don't
those
fix what's not
cornerstone events that
broken.
people really count on and that people have come to know and love Collingswood
Yeah.
for keep going. That being said, there are some areas that I really am focusing on. Like we talked about the West Side.
Mhm.
I really want to put some effort into that revitalization effort. Really focused on diversifying our borough programming somewhat.
Mhm.
I'm excited to be working with a community group that's going to be a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. We are
Awesome.
planning our first Juneteenth event for this year in
Okay.
partnership with resident stakeholders. Excited to do that work. I'm very excited about the recreation assessment that we're getting into, which is going to be an assessment of the entire borough and where we can identify gaps in access for recreation and how we can fix that.
Wow.
So that's a big thing that I'm focused on, and just continuing to support the businesses in any way I can. And honestly, just listening.
Yeah.
Like, what's on my horizon is a lot of listening
Right.
because I want to take in what residents are saying they want, they need,
Right.
pairing that with the resources that the borough has to give and really trying to find that meeting place.
Right. Well, I don't think there could be anyone more perfect for the position, being that you've experienced so much activity behind the scenes with small business owners in Collingswood. I mean, you've lived it. So
Thank you. Yeah, I'm
um,
excited to bring that experience to the table for sure.
that's great. As we kind of wrap things up here, I want to know what some things are about you that maybe you want people to know that maybe they don't know about you, just in general. I know it's a loaded
Mm.
question.
Yeah. Like I said before, I think that I have had some more public facing jobs, and it is assumed that I am this like massive extrovert, like party loving person.
Right.
And I am the homiest homebody you will ever meet. So that's the first thing I would say is that as much as I do love getting out there and I do love my organizations and all that, I also really love being alone. I
Yeah.
love my hobbies. I'm a big knitter. Like
Yeah.
I love to knit.
Well, I think also
I
when you
love
know everyone
podcasts.
in town, like, you
Yeah.
have to be able to take, like, solstice from that
Yeah.
by being I mean, to be honest, not to toot my horn that I'm as big of a deal as you are, but I feel when I'm in town, it takes a lot of energy
Yeah.
because there's so many faces
Yep.
that, I know being in the community that, like, turning it off is really important to kind of
Yeah.
protect the energy.
Yeah, so I'm really big on doing it's been a learning experience, for me, and I would say, along those lines of things people don't know is, like, as I've, had this journey with my boys' neurodivergence and diagnoses, I've found things out about myself and my own neurodivergence,
Right.
and so getting to know that part of me has been huge, and that's something about myself that probably not a lot of people know. I deal with my own forms of neurodivergence and those challenges that come along with that, but there's a lot of strengths that go along with that as well.
Right. Well,
Like,
identifying the weaknesses brings you to your
yeah,
strengths,
I'm
right?
able to hyper focus with the best of them, and I'm able to think really creatively and outside of the box because
Right.
of those things, you
Right.
know? So I try to think of the positives of those things about
Sure.
myself and just double down on them
Yeah.
and identify the challenges that come along with that and overcome them. And, so
Right.
that's
I feel like
something.
so much of adulting is moving into this space where you really begin to leverage what you're good at and
Yeah.
should try to put behind you what you're not good
Yeah,
at.
exactly. And like the past couple years have been a big like learning curve for me where that's concerned,
Yeah.
So learning those things about myself have been great, and now everybody else can know them too. So
Yeah. I love that.
yeah. A shout out to Collingswood at large.
Yeah.
You are a really, really incredible community. You are a community that's always working on yourself. And I love that about you, Collingswood.
Awesome.
And I hope I can, live up to the expectations and just deliver for this
Yeah.
borough because I really love it very deep in my
Yeah.
heart.
It's very clear that you're very passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so exciting. And just thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thanks.